know about lakes of the world? Today we have an intrigant quiz for you. Here we go. Number 1. Guess the lake? Tip in America. This is the famous Lake Michigan. Number 2. Guess the lake? Tip in Switzerland. This is the famous Lake Genevieve, or just Lockheed. Number 3. Guess the lake? Tip in Canada. This is the Lake Ontario. Number 4. Guess the lake? In Italy. This is the famous Lake Como or Lario. Number 5. Guess the lake? Tip in Africa. This is the important Lake Victoria in Uganda. Number 7. Guess the lake? Tip in UK. This is Lake Ness, famous about his monster. Number 8. Guess the lake? Tip in New Zealand. This is the volcanic Lake Rotorua. Number 9. Guess the lake? Tip in Russia. This is the Lake Baikal in Siberia. Number 10. Guess the lake? Tip in Hungary. This is the harmonic Lake Balaton. Number 11. Guess the lake? Tip in Italy. This is the beautiful Lake Garda. Number 12. Tip in India. This is the Dal Lake. Subscribe. Number 13. Guess the lake? Tip in Switzerland. This is the Lake Zurich. Number 14. Guess the lake? In Balkans. This is the Charmas Lake Bled. Number 15. Guess the lake? Tip in Central America. This is the Lake Atitlan. Number 16. Guess the lake? Tip in South Hemisphere. This is the Lake Vostok in Antarctica. Number 17. Guess the lake. Tip in Oceania. This is Red Lake Hillier. Number 18. Guess the lake. Tip in Asia. This is the Lake Biwa. Number 19. Guess the lake. Tip in Africa. This is the Lake Manyara in Tanzania. Number 20. Guess the lake? Tip in Scandinavia. This is the Lake Mälaren in Stockholm. Number 21. Guess the lake? Tip in Austria. This is the beautiful Lake Hallstatt. Number 22. Guess the lake? Tip in Suomi. This is the Saimaa Lake in Finland. Subscribe. Number 23. Guess the lake? Tip in Asia. This is the Lake Toba in Indonesia. Number 24. Guess the lake? In Oceania. This is the Lake Eyre. Number 25. Guess the lake? Tip in Balkans. This is the Lake Ohrid. Number 26. Guess the lake? Tip in Africa. This is the beautiful Lake Natron in Tanzania. Number 27. Guess the lake? Tip in Asia. This is Lake Inal in Myanmar. Number 28. Guess the lake? Tip in Africa. This is the Red Lake Retba in Senegal. Number 29. Guess the lake? Tip in Anatolia. This is the Lake Van in Turkey. Number 30. Guess the lake? Tip in Middle East. This is Intrigant Dead Sea. Do you liked it? Subs for more kisses.